there. Zach Wilson.
Mhm.
Bills aren't represented, though. Eh,
Mm.
much defensive help. All right. That's right. Okay, let's do this thing in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, Mac Jones is kind of meh as a quarterback, but did he land in the perfect spot? That and more today on the NFL draft recap. We're doing the AFC East this morning to see Salami and Sigmund Bloom, and we're actually starting with the Buffalo Bills, Bloom. And well, the Bills, we know offensively they're set, so defensively, let's go get them some help. Let's go get them some pass rushers, some players that can get after the quarterback, and that's exactly what they did. First round, Greg Rousseau, edge from Miami. Not every Miami player went high in this draft. The pass rusher certainly, but Jalen Phillips, Greg Rousseau there for the Bills at the end of the first. End of the second, Boogie Basham, Wake Forest in the second round to help out their defense. Then to help out their offensive line, it's Spencer Brown, offensive tackle from Northern Iowa, small school kid, big time dreams. Tommy Doyle, Miami of Ohio, up next in round 5 as they help out their offensive tackle position again. To the wide receiver side, Marquez Stevenson, wide receiver from Houston, got some explosive playmaking capabilities, and that pick changed hands 5 times before the Bills 5 times handled it. DeMar Hamlin, speaking of handling it, safety of Pitt in the 6th round. Rashad Wild Goose, cornerback, Wisconsin. What was it with Wisconsin's names this year? Like Loudermilk, Wild Goose. Right. Let's talk about round 7. Jack Anderson, a guard from the Red Raiders of Texas Tech.
Yeah, we look at the Bills, and in some ways, Cease, what did we say about? We've been doing this show for a while. What was the song about the Bills in the draft when we started doing this?
They're never going to be able to get their impact players because they're always picking like 15.
Right, or 9 or 8, Dante Whitner.
CJ Spiller.
Right, they're always picking in that range. Well, guess what? They picked 30th. So congratulations on that. But it's a different focus. You're not team building anymore. And where do you apply these assets? Some thought a corner. They got Tre'Davious White, but the other spot, maybe they think higher of what they have than we do. But like you said, Wild Goose, the only corner they got there. Developmental zone corner, maybe like a downhill corner. They focused on the line. Gregory Rousseau, long, productive, some questions about the nature of that production. See at Eric Galco on, and we talked about how some plays are more important than other plays in an evaluation. And maybe even you could take like half or 3/4 of plays that you watch a player in college and say, that just doesn't really reveal anything. So when Rousseau is getting sacks inside on college guards, does that matter? But Rousseau is certainly a player that they can add with Basham and Epinesa and Oliver. So you think about a NASCAR line, you think about a line of guys that are pass rushers that maybe aren't bendy corner edge rushers, but when you deploy the 4 of them together with the energy they bring, this is what they want. Basham he's a bruiser. He's a dude that, again, isn't bendy, isn't twitchy, but is a handful. See, there's just certain kinds of rushers that maybe they don't always win initially, but once they do win, they're going to find their target. They're going to get home. And I think that's what they're trying to get here. And then they focus on the offensive line. Spencer Brown, a mountain of a man. And hey, when you're a playoff team picking 30th, this is the kind of pick you can make. A high ceiling tackle, deep tackle class. And I like the picks later on at tackle, like the pick of the Browns. We talked about Hudson yesterday, that the ceiling, if you develop this guy, Spencer Brown, I think he already jumped on a table too. So, welcome.
Awesome.
Yeah. And another developmental tackle in Doyle, they gave away the last pick in the Diggs trade. Diggs with a good tweet thanking Brandon Beane, or else he would still be in Minnesota. And then they have a few guys late. Hamlin, Stevenson gives them some speed. Hamlin, a gamer at safety, which they like that, and the backfield instincts. Mean streak with Anderson, but this is a team that didn't really address corner, so we'll see about that. You see the strong defensive end, offensive tackle, putting a lot of pressure at that point, that clash on the field, and we'll see. I mean, the Bills know their task. The whole AFC knows their task, which is to overcome Patrick Mahomes, and pass rushers are a good way to do that.
Pass rushers are a great way to do that. And undrafted wise, well, not a ton. I mean, they did add a tight end. It was Quentin Morris from Bowling Green.
Yeah.
Trey Walker doesn't really stand out. Maybe Tariq Thompson, just because he's a San Diego State Aztec Bloom, but not a lot here. What do you think?
Yeah, not a lot. By the way, Diego in the chat room talking about a Singletary. Yeah, and they didn't take a running back. Well, that didn't surprise me. I think looking at spending
I had him taking Etienne just because I like the idea of that. You know what I mean?
And I certainly think if he had fallen, that's a question. I don't know if they've asked that to Brandon Beane, but I think that after spending a third-round pick in back-to-back drafts on a running back, you've been investing in running back, and sometimes maybe you just stop throwing good money after bad. And I think the Josh Allen-centric offense, Zach Moss, they hope is healthier this year. Devin Singletary, they hope picks up where left off in his first year, not last year. But more, as you mentioned, converted wide receiver, that always gets our attention at tight end. And they are still sticking with Dawson Knox and Jacob Hollister this year. But if Morris develops, maybe he could be in the picture down the line.
All right, Miami. We are going back to Miami. Oh, wait, that was Kelly. Anyway, we're going to Miami, and it's time to talk about Jalen Waddle. And we've seen all the numbers. We've seen all the analytics come out and be like, Waddle, and he's comfortable with Tua Tagovailoa. It was on our newswire yesterday. He completed 74% of his passes, averaged 16.6 yards per completion, and compiled 137.9 passer rating when targeting Jalen Waddle. Yeah, that's because Waddle can absolutely fly, can take the top off the defense, can make crazy circus catches. And you're basically, I had Jamar Chase as the best receiver in this class, Bloom, but you're basically splitting hairs, right, between him and Waddle, in my opinion. Chase is better, but by how much? Okay, fine. They get Waddle. They, boost this offense, which is a much needed boost of confidence for Tua Tagovailoa there as well. Another first rounder, Jalen Phillips, edge from Miami. And when they made the move to go for Phillips, one, it changed the Broncos' plans. The Broncos wanted to trade back in and get Phillips. If he fell, he didn't fall. So that scrapped that. And then the Broncos, maybe tipped off by someone within their own division, within the Dolphins division, about their interest in Javonte Williams. So Miami basically punted on a running back here, Bloom, because we all thought they would. All right, Jared Dokes in the 7th round, but whatever. So Jalen Phillips was their choice, adding to their pass rush. Javon Holland, safety of Oregon, 2nd round pick. Liam Eichenberg, offensive tackle, Notre Dame, 2nd round. Hunter Long. The Senior Bowl had some good tight ends, good, just not great or outstanding, but really solid wide tight ends. That's what Hunter Long will be, and I think it's a fine pick in the 3rd round. He's your traditional Y, go out there, work as a blocker, work as a safety blanket, security blanket receiver. Larnell Coleman, offensive tackle from UMass in the 7th round, and then Jared Dokes, aforementioned running back from Cincinnati. So pretty much punting on running back, but grabbing some talent on both sides of the ball in the 1st round.
Yeah, back-to-back teams here where we would look at their running back depth chart and say, needs some work, and the way things broke. And there's a question, would they have taken Javonte Williams if he had been there at 36? They really like Javon Holland. And they do seem like a team that I think at least has shown they're going to err on the side on not investing in running back. But there was talk they would have been in on Aaron Jones. However it goes, we'll see if they go to the free agent market now to add somebody. There's certainly still some Le'Veon Bell, who talked about going back to Miami last year. We'll see if they address that. But this is another team, Cease. I think it's pretty much unprecedented that Chris Grier has set up these runs where we look at them going into the draft and say, this team's wallet is thick in the draft. 4 top 50 picks. And what can you do with 4 top 50 picks in a draft for a team that's already got the ship going in the right direction? And by the way, they also picked up Pittsburgh's 4th next year, Loudermilk again. They did give up a 3rd to the Giants to move up for Liam Eichenberg. But let's start with Waddle. Like you said, he's in vicinity. They said Waddle was the number 2 player on their board, ahead of Chase. I don't know if they just put that stuff out there to make themselves feel better and look better. But what Waddle can do is win downfield. You think of a Tyreek Hill. You think of a Steve Smith, the way that even though they're small, They have the speed to get downfield, and they can make the play at the catch point. And those plays turn games. And then also, this is part of the rebuild to a Tagovailoa project. Obviously, Waddle could outlive Tagovailoa on this roster, but this odd confluence of top three receivers all going back with quarterbacks they played with in college. Jalen Phillips, and again, top 10 player, on tape. This is exactly what you're looking for in an edge rusher. This is exactly what you want. He also retired from football briefly. So we don't talk about that in the first round a lot.
Well, and those scooter accidents, right? It was concussions, like 3 concussions, but the first one came from a scooter accident. There was concerns, like, because he is like a music producer.
Yep.
So there was the buzz.
Music. Yep.
Like, how much does he love football? Which is the conversation I absolutely hate. Don't get me started on the draft grade things again, because again, you could just take Kyle Trask #1 because draft grades don't matter, right? Yeah. And don't get me started on the does he really love football thing. But yeah, that was out there.
Yeah. Does he really love football? I don't mean to get you started on this, Cease. But certainly the does he really love football thing, it's kind of there's 2 sides to it, right? Because on one side, it seems like it's a way to be judgmental about players having other interests than football, and how you really want someone that's going to give 100% of their attention to football. But at the same time, it's also maybe an implicit acknowledgement that the world of professional football player can just be a drag, man. I mean, it can just be like not a great, fun life to lead. And if you have other things that look good, but there probably are some players who've busted because they're like this isn't for me. But hopefully that's not Jalen Phillips, although he does come from a musical family, and absolutely that is a path available to him. Kadarius Toney, right? Javon Holland, Javon Holland is not a player that for fantasy football or for highlights that we're necessarily going to notice as much, but he's a glue player in a secondary. Nickel safety, slot corner, can handle the run, can do everything. And you start to see this defense coming together now, right? You have Jalen Phillips, that elite edge rusher, if he can stay healthy. Holland, now you have these 2, and Cease, I see this as you've got Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. How do you start to reap the rewards of having the best cornerback duo, pass rush,
passer,
and have somebody else that can be a ball hawk, a ball thief, that can also hang as in those other matchups that you can't address. Remember, they also took a first-round corner last year, so you see them putting the pieces together, and then they move up for Eichenberg. Eichenberg's fine. They have other options too right away, like DJ Fluker. You're going to move Robert Hunt inside. They give up a third. I guess that's not a lot. This is the tackle class. You're swinging for a single here. A solid player, may play right tackle right away for them. They get Hunter Long. Again, he's fine. This is like the Steelers taking Freiermuth. Cease. Like, okay. It's nice to have a dependable pass-catching tight end who is an adequate blocker. I suppose that opens up things in your playbook where you have somebody who can inhabit both modes and really activate a play that has 2 options for the tight end, becomes a run play or a pass play. But otherwise, you're not looking at a player who's going to add a lot of value. They do get Coleman, who is a high ceiling developmental tackle, and Dokes, who's, a competent power back. I don't know if he's even going to make the roster. I don't think he's better than what they have right now. But you see the plan, you see it coming together, and Cease again next year. They have an extra first-round pick. They just keep adding and pushing closer to their goal, but still giving themselves a future. If Tua doesn't work out, then they have options, and if Tua does work out, then this team's going to start to look really stacked.
Yeah, really stacked, except for undrafted free agents. Well, they get like 4, maybe 3. The list I'm looking at has 2. I did a quick Google search to see like who else they might have grabbed. Nobody really of note. Does Jerome Johnson or Rom Jones from Middle Tennessee State?
Exactly.
Does that help anyway, anyhow?
Robert Jones is strong.
He's big.
He's big. I mean, he's a developmental guard. So I don't know, but that's it. And we haven't even got to the Patriots yet. So,
right, exactly. The Patriots making moves. All right, it's the Audible. It's our 2021 NFL Draft Recap. Cecil Lammey and Sigmund Bloom, and take your shot at $1,001,001 with Underdog's Best Ball Mania 2 contest. Again, I wish I could get the echo of it. Two.
Mm-hmm.
Our friends at Underdog Fantasy are blowing the doors off the Best Ball world this year. You've got to take a look at their Best Ball Mania 2 contest that's live now. The grand prize is a cool $1,001 with a $3.5 million total prize pool. It's the best ball format, so you don't have to worry about players stuck on your bench and posting huge days. Set it, forget it, baby, and enjoy the season. It's the best ball way to play. It's Underdog Fantasy. Check out that Best Ball Mania 2 contest. More information in the description of this video. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And now we get on and we move on to one New England. Oh, the New England Patriots. Before the draft, you heard they love Justin Fields. They're going to make a move for Justin Fields. They did not do that. But before this draft, Bloom, and the discussion about Mac Jones, which is always ridiculous to me, like apologies to Mac Jones, because, fine kid or whatever I got to say. Like, it's never personal. Everyone stop thinking things are personal. Stop taking everything so personal and stop being offended by everything. But Mac Jones, he's kind of like Mac Jones is like, nah. But if you got him in the right system, okay, interesting. If he goes to New Orleans, Bloom, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see it. If he goes to New England, those were the two teams that I pegged because with Mac Jones, saw him down at the Senior Bowl. I mean, his arm's not as weak as people think, but anytime he loads up to go deep, one, he loads up to go deep, so it takes more time to throw, and then two, his deep passes flutter.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have a rocket arm. They can't zip it in there, but his accuracy is uncanny. Like the way he could like put it on a guy's hip, put it away from the defender, lead him out in front. Short to intermediate throws is where he lives. Josh McDaniels can make music with this guy. So while overall, and I always thought the San Francisco thing was ridiculous, when the 49ers make that move, I was like, it's for Trey Lance. It's got to be for Trey Lance. And I'll share a story about a wink that I received in talking about the 49ers. So that's a story for later. NFC West, that's coming up a couple of days. But to me, the Mac Jones at 3, I was like, where's this coming from? Because he's like a pick you take in the 30s, right? And just because there's QB next to his name. I mean, honestly, he should have been a second-round quarterback, but the Patriots take him there at 15. He's got the skills to fit what they want to do. So it's interesting. So while I'm not overwhelmed or overly excited by Mac Jones, I go with New England. There might be something there. So we shall see. Okay, round 2, Christian Barmore, defensive tackle, Alabama. Speaking of a guy that I think I had him in my first mock, but, late first rounder, falls to 38 there. Ronnie Perkins, edge from Oklahoma in round 3. Ramondre Stevenson, round 4. And the look, Bloom, I think you might have been out that night, but the look on Matt's face when I was like, Ramondre Stevenson's a fullback. And Matt was like, very measured, of course, the great Matt Waldman.
Yeah.
So we had a nice debate about that. Stevenson's not impressive to me. We'll see. He certainly wasn't impressive at the Senior Bowl. That doesn't mean everything, So Lorenzo Booker, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk about that. Ramondre Stevenson with the Patriots. What can he do? What will he be? Round 5, Cameron McGrone, linebacker, Michigan. Round 6, Joshua with an H, Bledsoe, safety out of Mizzou, another 6th-rounder. Will Sherman, offensive tackle, Colorado. Talked to Will about a month ago. So nice developmental tackle there. Versatile as well, left side, right side, whatever. And then Trey Nixon to round things out, wide receiver, UCF. Let's talk about the Patriots, which means we're going to talk a lot about Mac Jones.
Yeah. And we'll talk more about how that all went down from the San Francisco side, but from the New England side. And see, this takes us all the way back to January, right? Before they traded up to 3, San Francisco, that is. We would have started looking at 15 at about the earliest place we would expect Mac Jones to go in any scenario. And that's where he falls to. There's some talk that the Saints are trying to trade up for him. Well, Minnesota went from 14 to 23. Would Rick Spielman really care that much about going to 28? I mean, he got 2/3. I'm sure the Saints were offering a lot more than 2/3 to move up for Mac Jones. Anyway, speculation, subterfuge. What's the reality? The reality is that Jones is going to be the starter for the Patriots. And like you said, Cease, with McDaniels, okay, you can see the connection of what Jones does well and what McDaniels can scheme to, and how this team has worked even in the passing game in the past. It's still a limiting pick. Scott McCloughan. See, what do we think about Scott McCloughan, by the way?
He's a friend, so I think he's got plenty of experience.
He's a good talent evaluator. I mean, overall, of the people that people are cited, as a definitive, as an authority on talent evaluation,
it's one of those you don't laugh at, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like
when someone else cites someone else, you're like,
yeah. And look, he said he saw Jones as a perennial backup, which maybe that's a little bit strong. But he said there's no physical skills. You can say mental ability all you want, but you got to have some physical upside. And that's the thing when you watch him. And like you said, Cease, like he has to load up to throw deep. Or I just feel like he's an Andy Dalton type where once he's flushed out of the pocket, then the play is basically over. I mean, you want to capitulate, have him throw the ball away because he's not going to do much outside of structure. So in some ways it limits the Patriots, but hey, teams with great defenses have won Super Bowls with quarterbacks like Mac Jones holding it down. Barmore, and this is where Belichick gives up 2/4 to move up for him. And Belichick, just straightforward, he's like, best defensive tackle in the draft. Now, the best defensive tackle in this draft might not be the same as the best defensive tackle in other drafts, but that's how he described it. And Barmore's a player that obviously can create penetration inside on passing downs. I think they can play him as an end on early downs. I think you're going to see him right away become a featured player in this defense. They give up the third, by the way. Let's not forget that. Let's not just totally gloss over that. They lost their third round pick because they were filming the Bengals. The Bengals? The Bengals.
Oh my God.
Let's always remember that. We'll always have that. Ronnie Perkins, a power edge rusher. You can see him working out. I mean, look, you've got power. He's got heavy hands, and he's going to play a role for sure. Stevenson, I mean, a fullback might be strong, but he's a useful back. He actually, doesn't it just make sense for him to be on the Patriots, right?
Because he can do a little bit of everything.
Exactly. Return kicks. He can run with power on short yardage downs. He can
Rex Burkhead.
Exactly.
That guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's the Patriots. They're always going to have one of these guys like in the incubator, and they brought back James White this year, but maybe next year Stevenson plays that role, part of that role. Cameron McGrone, your classic linebacker who can sniff out plays and find the ball. Maybe not the most physically talented. Maybe not somebody you want on the field on passing downs. But look, Belichick was doing this before anybody else, using like 16, 17 players on defense and having players who, hey, this is what he does well. So in situations where we can use that, we're going to use him. Interesting one. You have Bledsoe, physical, good movement. Sherman's going to be one of your tackle to guard conversions. Trey Nixon's got some speed, a little bit banged up coming into the draft. And that's the thing, since we end on Trey Nixon, no wide receivers. So Bill Belichick is still basically throwing his hands in the air about wide receiver and saying, look, I threw money at Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne. What more do you want? So we'll see. They didn't really address that position. This is, an interesting turning point. And he's hovering over the Patriots draft. Don't you just feel Tom Brady hovering over it?
Yeah.
I mean, they took Mac Jones, I mean, right. So this story goes on, and Belichick is trying to turn it around now, because I think that absolutely that plays into how Belichick is proceeding, maybe feeling urgency to get Mac Jones. So you wonder now, the next question ceases, who starts week one? And more specifically, what are you working on installing in training camp? Are you installing the Mac Jones offense or the Cameron Newton offense? Because they're very different offenses.
Yeah, and Mac Jones can't do what Cam can do.
No.
So that's a problem. That is a problem. I would talk about the undrafted free agents for the Patriots, Bloom, but I don't think they signed any.
None. Zero.
So Julian Edelman, do you believe he was scared of Bill? And what Brady
I could
said?
believe being scared of Bill. I mean, there's a more and more of a dynamic. And Cease, I think it's like a family, right? Let's say you grow up with a hard father. And I mean, all the parents out there can relate to this, where on one hand, you don't want to break your child's spirit, but the harder you are, Anthony Bourdain said something like, you pet the baby while it's asleep, like you don't, but the harder you are, the greater results, the greater achievements that can yield down the line. So within a family with a hard father, you might have, one sibling that says, hey, dad pushing me made me what I am today. And another kid's like, dad traumatized me. Like I'm a broken person because of dad. Like, I hate myself. I feel like a failure no matter what I do because of dad. And I think that's Belichick, right? Different people. I mean, Kenny Moore said he hated football. He was miserable,
Right.
absolutely miserable in New England. He goes to Indy, he's the best slot corner in the league.
Yeah, and Tommy Brady became the best quarterback of all time, and Belichick would rip him up one side and down the other in front of everybody to prove a point. Like, you're Tom Brady, I'm still gonna ride your ass. So 0 undrafted free agents.
Yeah, well, and it could be there's theories. He's like alien stuff, right? Ooh,
We did go tinfoil hat off the air. So tell me the theory.
Well, I mean, there's theories like, is it a financial issue? Is it because they can just only bring in 5 players for tryouts anyway? Is it because they just like their roster? But it's the Patriots, so we're never going to know.
It's the Patriots, so that's right. We are never, ever going to know. We round things out with the highest bust factor in this draft. And I don't say that about the players, Zach Wilson. I say it about the situation. Now, I think it's stupid when people were late to the Zach Wilson party. Like, huh? What? BYU? Huh? He should have been in your conversation or on your radar last season. So we look at it today and we go, Zach Wilson blew it up in the COVID year and there were no fans and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but Zach Wilson, I think, and I feel bad for the kid, Bloom, because I think people were projecting onto him Pat Mahomes. It's like, he's not Pat Mahomes, not at all. You want to say he's Baker Mayfield? Sure. It's a conversation I'll have. But the Zach Wilson thing, I believe it was 81% of his passing attempts, there was 0 pressure. Okay, what's that going to be in the NFL? Is it going to be reverse? 81% of the time he will be under pressure? Like, okay, when he was pressured, he didn't handle it well. He's in the Big Apple. Nothing but pressure abounds in New York. So while I appreciate the young man and his skill set, and he can run and he can throw off angle, he gets a little too cute with the football at times. He'll face someone will be coming at him, and he'll try to sidearm it and throw in the defender's arms. That'll drop it. Like, so there's decision making, and there's getting too cute with the ball because he has ultimate confidence in his arm. Great, he's got ultimate confidence, Bloom. That's awesome. But in New York, where they haven't had a quarterback since Joe Namath, like, the pressure is going to be incredible on Zach Wilson. What does he do? How does he thrive? How does he make plays happen? Now, Elijah Vera Tucker, guard, tackle, guard, USC. All right, another first-round pick. Second round, Elijah Moore. I believe it was on Twitter, Bloom. I only look at my @replies, so I apologize to anybody I follow out there. But I think I might have saw that you said, hey, a smart team's going to pick up Elijah Moore.
Yeah.
Well, the Jets got him. So, and I'm rooting I'm rooting for Robert Saleh, right? I'm rooting for Mike LaFleur. I'm rooting for almost all the former Broncos and 49ers that are on that staff. So Elijah Moore in the second round, very interesting player. Michael Carter, very interesting player as well as the Jets, people anticipating, where would they address the running back position? They did with the other North Carolina guy, and they did it with the guy that cannot pass protect at all. Huge problem. But you get him the rock and he goes. I mean, just electric, energy, quickness, moves, juke moves, fake spins, lots of speed. Michael Carter's an interesting player. He's got to learn how to pass protect if he's going to get on the field. Jamien Sherwood, 5th round safety, Auburn. Michael Carter, another one. Yeah. Michael Carter the second, cornerback, Duke. Is everyone confused now? 5th round, Jason Pinnock, cornerback, Pittsburgh. 6th round, Hamza Nasirildeen, safety, Florida State. Brandon Eccles, cornerback, Kentucky. 6th round, Jonathan Marshall, defensive tackle, Arkansas, in the 6th round as well. So we've got quite a few players to talk about from a fantasy perspective. Obviously, it begins with Wilson, and he does have the highest bust factor in this class. Not necessarily because of him, Bloom,
right?
Although he does not perform well under pressure. He didn't see much pressure, but when he did, it didn't look good. How does he battle that in the pressure cooker that is New York City?
Right. There's so many ins and outs, right? I mean, see, if Wilson busts, we're not going to be able to definitively say this is why he busted, because there's already different things he's going to have to swim upstream against. Like you said, the Jets market, the Jets organization, the offensive line, or the leap in level of play, or as I was just talking about, referring back to that conversation with Eric Galco, the idea that only certain plays matter when you're doing a pro evaluation of a college player. And for Wilson, yeah, you want to look at the plays where how he performs when things aren't ideal. I think this applies to Mac Jones too. How do you perform? What can you summon up when you aren't able to function in ideal conditions? So that's something that we'll think about. But this whole Jets draft was a big one, not just for the quarterback choice. I mean, first of 2 drafts with 2 first-round picks, Jamal Adams trade. And, hey, maybe that Seattle first round will be better than we thought, too. And you have Robert Saleh. You have a system. You have a real blueprint. I don't know what they had. See, what did Adam Gase have? Like the back of a cereal box or something? Right. Not a blueprint. Okay. Robert Saleh is coming in with a blueprint. And it's one that works. And they have so many needs. This is the roster that had so many needs that you knew going into this draft that we can't necessarily read too much into them neglecting certain needs as being something about what they think of what they have on the roster. It might just be, hey, we want to get players we know we're going to hit. Like when you're where the Jets are, just get players you know are going to be good players. Start building around that. It's kind of like where the Lions are right now. So they get Wilson. Obviously, this is going to be something that's debated forever. As this regime had their pick. How's Lance going to perform? How's Fields going to perform? Or how's Wilson going to perform? I don't know. It's fascinating too, Cease, with this Saleh regime. I mean, if Wilson fails, is that it? Or is this more like a McDermott situation where you're going to give it 5 years no matter what? But by taking the quarterback in year 1, you start the clock. So that's always looming over these situations. We're going to have a lot of fun breaking down Wilson. And look, Cease, whatever happens with Wilson, it's going to be entertaining. Like Josh Allen, right? Like good or bad, he's not going to be boring to watch. And, and look, you understand how you could get excited about Zach Wilson, at least in terms of his aggressiveness. Well, I can't remember who said it. They said it's easier to say whoa than sick 'em, So, hey, you like the way that he wants to attack. He certainly has natural arm talent. He certainly understands how to marry his improvisational ability to plays. It's just a question of whether those are going to come as easily. And also if he's going to leave himself out to just get hammered. The way he plays, there's going to be a couple of moments early this year, Cease, when he just gets hammered on a play. And it's going to be a moment of realization for him of like where the boundaries are in the NFL of what you can do, especially when you're
And that might change his play style, honestly, because you mentioned Josh Allen. Josh Allen's a tank.
Yeah.
So he gets hit and he's like, come on. It tastes his blood in his mouth. He's like, let's go.
Exactly.
Wilson might get hit and be like, I don't like that feeling at all. I'm going to change.
Yeah. So it's a great story.
Fascinating.
It is. It is fascinating. And then you see and look, you can't really, this is a solid move, right? Blue chip, right? See, we were just talking about investments. This is what Berkshire Hathaway, you know what I mean? Trading up for the best guard in the draft, Vera Tucker. And now, as Matt Patanti was saying on our live show, you have an offense that can be with Becton. That's a great pick. An offense that can be left-handed. An offense that can really have something that they can leverage off of in their play calling and play design. This is a great offensive tackle class. You could look for that tackle opposite Becton. But Vera Tucker, and in giving up 2 third-round picks, okay, it's third-round picks. They got a 10-year starter. Are the Colts mad they took Quentin Nelson at number 6? No. And I'm not saying Vera Tucker's in that stratosphere, but he's one of the surest things in this draft. So I get it, and again, what are we looking at here, Cease?
I wanted the Steelers to get him, by the way.
Yeah, that was never going to happen. It would have been great. Hey, DeCastro fell that one draft. The Steelers used up all their luck when DeCastro fell.
Right.
They're never going to get that again. So you're committing to Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore. And will be interesting to see what they do with Jamison Crowder now. $10 million. Is he a $10 million player? I don't know. I think Elijah Moore could start right away. And Elijah Moore is one of those players that we might slightly overlook because there's not just that one trait that really stands out, but the combination of skill and physical ability and just instincts for the game. He's so polished. He's so pro ready. So whether or not Crowder's on the roster, he's going to get on the field. And we'll see about Corey Davis. We'll see about Denzel Mims. I'm not worried about Elijah Moore. I know what we're going to get. And we're going to get someone who is going to maybe become Zach Wilson's favorite target right away. 100 catch potential down the line for sure. And then Michael Carter, and I think of like Duke Johnson, I just think of a player. I always overrate players like this. It's one of the blind spots that I'm sure longtime listeners of the show can just nod along and say, well, I can just skip over that. Lorenzo Booker.
Booker.
Yeah.
It's the third time we're talking about him.
Yeah. So, but hey, in this backfield, I mean, since you line up the guys in this backfield, he's the guy I want with the ball in his hands. I don't want Tevin Coleman, or Ty Johnson, maybe Josh Adams. I don't know.
Goal line.
So I think Carter could easily lead this backfield in touches right away. Then you see second half of their draft, again, gave up those 2 third-round picks, so more late-round picks now. They get a couple special teamers, and Sherwood Carter. Carter's got speed, the other Carter. Sherwood could be a box safety. And again, you're not addressing cornerback. I mean, that's one of those things like, this is going to be a team that's going to really have to play from behind. They don't have edge rushers. They don't have cornerbacks. I mean, there's so many things this team needs, but they get some developmental guys. And maybe you look at what Saleh did with, Emmanuel Mosley, turning him into a solid player. And he's looking for these guys that he can develop. I think Pinnock is that kind of downhill cornerback. Nazilruddin, mouthful, really interesting player. And I could have easily seen him going in the 3rd or 4th round. He's one of those players that can play slot corner. He can play weak side linebacker. He can play box safety. He can even drop into coverage as a safety. I think they're going to make him a weak side linebacker, which is not a hard position to crack. But I think that versatility is something that Robert Saleh is going to know how to use. Eccles is a really interesting guy because, and this is, I think, is a pick that is the kind of pick you want to hear the Jets are making. Just converted to cornerback. Looks like he has a knack for the position, but is still really raw. But could absolutely hit 2 or 3 years down the line. Another interesting pick with Marshall, a guy who at Arkansas, I think, was playing nose tackle and said, I was out of position, but I was doing it for the team. But as a gap shooter in a 4-3, then you're going to see my real game come out. So I like these picks. I like how they use their late round picks. I think Jets fans, you can start to be a little vulnerable, be open to something new. Although this year, like we talked about Wilson, the team, they're going to take some lumps.
They are going to take some lumps. And undrafted wise, they got one of my favorite sleeper tight ends in this draft, Kenny Yeboah from Ole Miss. Saw him down at the Senior Bowl. He's an F. That's all he is. Don't ask him to block. But as a receiver, he's got ability to haul in contested passes, knows how to frame and square up his shoulders to the line of scrimmage, comes back to the ball. Also a threat to do something with it after the catch against linebackers or safety. So Kenny Yeboah, hey, we got to talk about undrafted free agents because they're not like the Patriots.
Yeah, we do. And a good one. And again, Cease with the Jets, like they didn't address this hole. They didn't address that hole. I think Chris Herndon, tight end's a problem position. Maybe Herndon works out getting out from under the thumb of Gase, but that's a big ask. So Yeboah has that wide receiver skill set that we love at tight end. They gave him some 6-figure guarantee, so they really wanted to go get him. And it's, again, a new coaching regime at least. I think that Yeboah is going to have a chance to show that he can be the long-term answer, not Herndon. And in fantasy, that could mean something good if Zach Wilson is good. Lots and lots of ifs for the Jets, but at least you don't automatically know they're going to be terrible this year. So take solace.
And new hope, new era with Robert Saleh. So they got some quality football guys in place with the Jets. We'll see if they can just overcome being cursed as a franchise. Sorry, Chase. That is a wrap for the AFC East draft recap here on the Audible. Everyone out there, thank you very much for watching. We're going to take a little break, come back with the NFC East today. South Thursday, West Friday, getting it done at the highest level. And of course, thanks to our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Everybody check them out. Do all those YouTube things. You love the Audible, then help us grow the Audible and our Football Guys TV channel. So make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And if you're in the chat room, please throw a comment down there as well. Helps us put us in other people's recommended videos. So thank you for liking us. You really, really like us. He's Sigmund Bloom. I'm Cecil Lammey. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.